Hi, it's Cheryl with Caribou Country Lifestyle. I'm out in the garden today and it's the middle of October. The weather has been phenomenal for this time of the year. It's just pretty much unheard of for now, and it's like 19 degrees Celsius, which is 66 degrees Fahrenheit. I actually have picked pretty much all of my tomatoes, and I still have a few peppers in the garden, and I have the odd tomato, but they're so tiny that I just figured, well, I'll just leave these tiny ones, and if they actually do get any bigger, then great, I will pick them as well. But again, the 10-day forecast, it's like Saturday and next week it's supposed to be still in the high teens, even up to 20 for some days. So I'm pretty surprised by that, but I'm absolutely loving it. So I figured, well, let's just take a look and see what's left in the garden, and I'll kind of go over what I'm taking out, what I'm leaving in, and we'll go from there. So let's take a look. So we'll start over here. I've actually been picking my celery and using it in quite a few dishes lately. My carrots are almost gone. I've only got a few carrots left in the garden, and I'm just kind of letting them get a little bit bigger. Of course, my poor cucumber didn't really amount to anything. I got these eeny weeny tiny little cucumbers on there, and I don't think they're going to do anything by the time we end up getting a frost. And I picked my big pumpkin, but if you see here, trying to get these leaves, I got that little tiny pumpkin sitting in there, and I'm just leaving it and letting it get a little bit bigger. I'm still coming out in the garden and watering it because the weather has been quite nice. I did take out my bigger pumpkin, so I took out that vine that the bigger pumpkin was on. There's no point in having it in the garden anymore. My zinnias are still looking lovely. My fashion color sunflowers are still producing out the blooms. And I actually picked a corn off of one of the corn stalks today, and I took the husks off of it, and it was about 2/3 full. So I don't think it's going to get any fuller than that, but that's pretty good for, I haven't grown corn in probably over 10 years. And these seeds, I think they were about 11 years old. So that's pretty good for seeds that old. I've still got my lobelia, cosmos, a couple of snapdragons in there still. I'm planning on picking the other corns and see what I come up with. I've still got some yellow zucchinis developing. And if it was cold, those zucchini plants would be hit by the frost and they would be gone. I forget what kind of flower that is. Oh, that's the osteospermum. I think that's how you say it. I picked most of the tomatoes. There's only a couple of little tomatoes on there, and I just figured they're not worth picking, but I'll leave them on there. Still have quite a few little cherry tomatoes, giving them a chance to vine ripen. That's when they're the best. I've even still got a couple of little Peter Pan squashes developing there. I've even got a green zucchini coming in. Oh, get out of the way, you silly leaves. Coming in there. It's only about 4 inches long right now. Some more calendula. These rutabagas, those will definitely stay in the ground until we get our first frost. Rutabagas actually can handle a light frost. That actually makes them be a little bit more sweeter. And with rutabagas, I actually like to put rutabagas in a stew, roasted vegetables, and I'll actually substitute them in for potatoes as well. So a little bit less carbs, but they're really good in a stew and they're really good with other roasted vegetables as well. Got a little leek growing in there. Still have my jalapeno peppers. Not much for peppers. I've got a few in here, hoping that they might get a little bit bigger. Gonna give them a little bit of a chance to get a little bit bigger. Some of them are red. That's my cheddar cauliflower. It's not looking the greatest, so I'll probably just end up pulling that out. Gonna leave my broccoli because it's still producing some side shoots. I took out my Toscano kale, but I'm gonna leave in my dwarf green curled kale because it's still producing lots of kale. And I can take this and chop it up and freeze it and then use it in soups or in smoothies as well, besides just having it fresh in salads. Over here, still have a lot of beets. Haven't really done too much with my beets so far. Have had a few feedings with roasted beets. And that's another root vegetable that can stay in the ground even if it's had a little touch of the frost. Not much left in here. Took out all my beans, took out all my carrots as well. I just have in the back over here, this is just a snapdragon, and then I have my Swiss chard, and that's another thing that I'm planning on. I'm going to pick it, chop it up, and I can either put it in soups, I can put it in lasagna, I could put it in stew. Again, like the kale, I can chop it up and freeze it and put it into freezer bags and have it that way. This bed here is where I planted my garlic, and I still have to put my straw over top of it. I watered it just the other day for a second time. Still have a couple of buds on this sunflower that hasn't opened. They're pretty small, so I'm not sure if they are going to open or not. And then this sunflower, I got some of the sunflowers need to be cut, and then we have a couple that look really good. Got another leek there. I'm gonna leave that in the garden. And my cabbage. Another leek. And then this is the Tabasco pepper, and I'm considering actually repotting some of these peppers. I got some pots out, and I'm thinking about repotting this Tabasco pepper and bringing it into the house. Still have some yellow pear tomatoes. They were pretty small, so I'm just leaving them on the vines, and we'll see what happens. Wait until the frost hits, but in the meantime, I've picked all the ones that matter. My cayenne pepper, still loaded with peppers. And then here's my tomato plant that I stuck in the ground after I lopped it off, and I've got the 2 tomatoes there. I didn't bother picking those. They still need some time. This pepper here, this is my hybrid Satsuma. This is another pepper I would like to dig it up, put it into a pot, and bring it into the house, try and overwinter it. And then if I come around on this side, I actually thought I had picked all the tomatoes, And then I found that little tomato in the back there. That's my old German green tomato. So I'm just going to leave that and see what happens with that as well. Over here is just a couple of little eggplants, some radishes, and this is my biggest eggplant that I have. It's got a couple of buds on it. I have 1, 2, 3 buds on it. This one had a flower, but I haven't seen anything to follow in behind that. And if we come over here, I've been picking off of those celery as well. And these, like if you look at that cauliflower there, it's not looking the greatest. So I'm just going to probably just pull those out and not even bother with waiting for them any longer. Another celery. And then since I've taken the bottom leaves off of my Brussels sprouts, giving my Brussels sprouts, not that, I mean, we don't have a whole heck of a lot of time left. I mean, the weather has been beautiful, but I just figure I don't know if I'm going to get any Brussels sprouts off of those. And 2 more celeries. This is my natural black cherry tomato, and I left a couple of little tiny tomatoes on there. Got some up there. Too small to pick, but with the way this weather is, we'll just leave them and see what happens. I don't have any tomatoes left on my oxheart plant, so I've actually snipped all the ties that I had. See, I have these green ties on the natural black cherry. Well, I've cut all of those ties off, and I'm going to take those plants right out because they have absolutely nothing left on them. And then here we have on this side, this is the gypsy pepper, and then this one beside it is actually a sweet sunset, and it has no peppers left on it. So I'm just waiting for that gypsy pepper to get the peppers to be a little bit bigger. A couple of Cosmos left there. These are the New Girl tomatoes, and I've cleaned all of the tomatoes off of there, and I've also cut the little ties that I had on that because there's nothing left on that, and I will just take those tomato plants out. This is another cauliflower, and that's actually a cheddar cauliflower, but it's not going to amount to anything. And I see I have a worm across that cauliflower, so I'm just going to probably end up taking that out. And then I have a couple of little tiny cabbages over here, and still a couple of onion sets in here. This is my chocolate sprinkles, and I've taken a majority of the tomatoes off. I just left the few of the smaller ones on here as well, and we'll just leave it and see what happens. So yeah, that's all I have left in the garden. There's not much left, and I'm just kind of waiting things out and see what happens. But let's go take a look in the garage, and I'm going to show you all the tomatoes that I did pick. Some are ripe, some are green, waiting to ripen. Okay, so in my garage, in this box, we'll just lift up. I have these covered with newspaper so that they will ripen. They ripen better in the darkness. So some of these are ripe, and the little tomatoes on the left, those are all my chocolate sprinkles. And then we have those are the Brandywine tomatoes, my Aunt Ruby's German green. And then on the right, all of those little tomatoes, those are the natural black cherry. So I'll come through here every few days and I will pick out all the ripe ones. So So I'll just put this newspaper back on here. Cover that up again. In here, these are tomatoes that are more ripe. And I have quite a few in here. Lots of the New Girl tomatoes. I actually even got, right here, show you, a yellow pear finally ripened. My first yellow pear. So, and it's just a mix of my cherry tomatoes along with a lot of the other, oops, get my handle out of the way so can eat them fresh. And once I get enough, then I'm going to be doing some canning. And in my last box, these are starting to ripen, some of them. But when I first put them in here, these were pretty much all green. So they're starting to ripen. A lot of the yellow pear, they're pretty much all green. They're just starting to ripen. So I'm going to put my newspaper back on there, and let's go look out on the deck. Okay, we've got, still everything is out on the deck here. I haven't pulled anything yet. Now this pepper has basically just a couple of little peppers on it. Right, if you look here, there's one there, and this is the Sweet Sunset, and another one there. Not very much left on there. This is my San Marzano, and I have picked the tomatoes off of that one, and again, there's not much left on there. This is the tumbler tomato, just these little tiny ones left to mature. And this is the Lemon Boy, and there's only a couple of little tomatoes there, and then down there, and a couple over there. But I need to give this one some water also. Now this is my Manitoba, and this one actually hasn't produced a whole heck of a lot of tomatoes on it, even to begin with. So just waiting for those to ripen. Got my flowers. These are my dianthus, and my geraniums have finally decided to flower. Again, here's another Manitoba. I have a few tomatoes on here. The good thing about having these tomatoes in the pots is that if I want, and I feel like there's a threat of a frost with these tomatoes in planters, I can always put them, trucks going by, I can always put them underneath my eaves and up alongside of the house. And if it's just a light frost, that's enough protection for those tomatoes. So that's one good thing about having some of your plants in pots, that you can put them under cover and it protects them. More flowers here. I've got my Sugar Daddy petunias, and I love these carnations. They just, when I smell them, I just smell cloves. And I really love these petunias too. I've deadheaded most of my snapdragons, so they haven't really sent out any other flowers. And then this is another gypsy pepper, and I've got some pretty good sized peppers on here. Got two over here, just kind of waiting. And this is the other Lemon Boy, and it does only have this one tomato on it, so I'm just gonna wait for those as well. When I look down here over into the yard, these are our fruit trees. So that far fruit tree, that's a pear. This one here, that's a pear as well. And so what Jamie has done is he has dug around each of my fruit trees And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some of that compost that he has been making, and I'm going to put them around my fruit trees for over the winter. And if you look over here into my berry side, on that far tree there, that's a plum tree, and I'm going to be putting compost around that one. And then that is my sour cherry tree, and I'll be putting compost around that one. And if I come back in the very back over here, I have two more fruit trees. So this one is an ambrosia apple tree, and that is one that my brother-in-law started from a seed from an ambrosia apple that he bought in the grocery store. And that other fruit tree right there, that is a Honeycrisp, and I'm going to be putting compost around that one also. And then we'll put those metal frames back around it. Eventually, what we want to do is we would like to fence all along this side of the property so that the deer can't come in, because they just wreak havoc on our fruit trees. They strip all the leaves off of it, they try to eat the apples off of it, so it's kind of a pain, really. So that's what we have going on in the garden for the middle of October. Not a whole heck of a lot. The garden's getting a little shyer and shyer, taking out plants. And oh, I forgot to show you my pumpkin. Let's go out, back out into the garage, and I'm going to show you the pumpkin that I did pick. Hi, Cole. We're babysitting. This is my fur grandbaby, Cole. He's here. We're babysitting. His dad is working, and we get to babysit. Okay, Cole, we're going to go check out the pumpkin. So let's just go through the kitchen here, back into the garage, and through this mess. There's my pumpkin. That's the one I picked from in the garden for my spirit pumpkin. So hopefully it's going to ripen by the time Halloween is here. We actually only have 2 more weeks and then it's going to be Halloween. So hopefully that pumpkin is going to be orange by then. Not that it really matters. We don't get any trick-or-treaters at our house. The way that our property is situated, this road is not lit up with street lights, so we do not get any trick-or-treaters coming to this house. So I don't really decorate the front of my house for Halloween anymore. I used to when we lived into a more residential area, but this is a rural area, so we don't really have a lot of kids that want to come up into this because it is quite dark in here, so I don't blame them. So I just wanted to show you, now that I've put that nice rich dark compost around my apple trees. I did that one. I put the frame back around it. And then let's go over here. There's my one pear tree, that's all done. My other pear tree, look how nice that compost looks. And then in the back, there's my plum, that's a blue plum. And then my sour cherry tree. So that's all finished now. But that's what I have going on in the garden for right now, middle of October. And I guess that was my mid-October little garden tour. So thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Throw a like in there if you like it. And if you haven't subscribed, you might want to subscribe too. We'll talk again the next time. Bye for now.